You step on a nail. Before you even know what happened, your hand is pulling your foot back. You didn't decide to do that. Your nervous system did. In under 50 milliseconds, a signal tore from your foot to your spinal cord and fired a motor response before your brain even processed the sensation as pain. Then the pain hit. Sharp, overwhelming, impossible to ignore. Your whole world collapsed into that one point on your foot. Now, here's what you never asked. Why does that have to hurt at all? And why does the oak tree outside your window, which gets its bark torn off, its roots crushed, its branches snapped, feel nothing? Or does it? What if pain isn't about having a nervous system? What if it's about something much older, much stranger, and much more uncomfortable to admit? The answer isn't one thing. There are layers here in nociceptors, in chemical screams, in evolutionary bets made hundreds of millions of years apart. Each layer cuts deeper than the last. Let's go. Start with the assumption everyone carries around without examining. Pain is a feeling, something that happens in the mind. Trees don't have minds, so trees don't feel pain. Clean, simple. Wrong. Pain isn't a feeling. Pain is a function. And once you understand that, the tree question gets very complicated very fast. Pain exists in humans because it forces behavioral change. You step on the nail, you stop stepping on nails. You touch the fire, you pull back, you survive. The neuroscientist Vania Apkarian at Northwestern University spent decades mapping chronic pain networks and landed on a framework that most people find unsettling. Pain is not a signal that something is damaged. Pain is a prediction. Your brain constantly models the body and the world, and pain is what it outputs when it calculates that damage is happening or likely to happen. The signal from your foot doesn't arrive as pain. It arrives as raw data. Your brain decides to make it painful because pain is the most effective behavioral interrupt it has. Which raises the question immediately. What does a tree use instead? Here's where it gets strange. In 1983, two researchers named Jack Schultz and Ian Baldwin, then at Dartmouth, published a study that genuinely unsettled the scientific community. They found that when willow trees were attacked by insects, neighboring willow trees that had no physical contact with the attacked tree began producing chemical defenses, not after days, within hours. The attacked tree was releasing volatile compounds into the air, airborne chemical signals, and nearby trees were reading them and responding. The term that emerged over the following decades was plant volatiles, specifically a class called greenleaf volatiles and methyl jasmonate. These aren't random byproducts of damage. They are targeted, specific molecular messages. Suzanne Simard, at the University of British Columbia, spent 30 years mapping what she called the wood wide web fungal networks connecting tree root systems underground across entire forests, and found that trees under stress push carbon and chemical signals through these networks to neighboring trees of the same species. Douglas firs, under insect attack, have been shown to increase neighbor trees' terpene production by up to 200% within 24 hours. The tree is screaming. You just can't hear it. The scream is in chemistry, not sound. Now, let's tackle the biggest myth here. People think pain requires a brain. It doesn't even require neurons as humans understand them. Monica Gagliano at the University of Sydney ran a series of experiments on Mimosa pudica, the sensitive plant, the one that folds its leaves when touched, published in Oecologia in 2014. She dropped the plants repeatedly from a small height. At first, the plants closed their leaves on impact, the standard defensive response. After several drops with no damage, the plants stopped closing. They had, in some functional sense, learned that this particular stimulus wasn't dangerous. She shielded them from light and tested them again 4 weeks later. The plants still didn't close for the harmless drop, but they closed immediately for any genuinely novel stimulus. No neurons, no brain. Something that functions like learned discrimination between harmful and harmless. The word pain may be wrong for what plants experience, but the word nothing is also wrong. Something is happening. Something is being processed. Something is being responded to. The difference is the medium. Humans use electrochemical signals running through a nervous system evolved over 600 million years. Trees use molecular signals running through chemical gradients and fungal networks evolved over 400 million years. Two completely different architectures solving the same problem. How do you respond to damage before the damage kills you? Here's something else that almost never comes up. The evolutionary logic behind why humans feel pain the way they do is actually a recent accident. Most animals with nervous systems experience nociception, the raw detection of tissue damage. But the particular suffering quality of human pain, what philosophers call the affective component, the part that makes you want to stop everything and fix it, that appears to be tied to the prefrontal cortex and anterior cingulate cortex, brain regions that expanded dramatically in hominins only in the last 2 million years. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology compared pain response patterns across primates and found that great apes show significantly less behavioral disruption from equivalent pain stimuli than humans do. The same tissue damage, less suffering. The implication is uncomfortable. We didn't just evolve pain. We evolved to suffer from pain in a way that overrides almost everything else. Because in a social species with tools and language and the ability to plan, the most dangerous thing isn't the nail in your foot, it's ignoring it. Human pain is calibrated for a social animal that can fix problems, but only if it stops and pays attention long enough to try. So, here's the part nobody tells you. The gap between human pain and tree pain isn't consciousness. It's speed and medium. A tree responds to damage across hours and days, through chemistry and network signals. A human responds in 50 milliseconds through electrical impulses. The tree's response is no less real. It's just running on a different clock. Suzanne Simard's work showed that when a mother tree, a large, well-connected Douglas fir, was dying, it released a pulse of carbon through the fungal network to its seedling offspring in the final weeks of its life. The seedlings that received that pulse had measurably higher survival rates. The dying tree was, in some chemical sense, saying goodbye and passing resources to its children. You can call that biology. You can also notice that it looks remarkably like something else. Every pill you've ever taken for pain is attacking one of the chemical pathways that plants also use. Aspirin blocks cyclooxygenase enzymes. So do plants when they're producing salicylic acid in response to pathogen attack. The same molecular logic, running in two completely different kingdoms of life, separated by 400 million years of evolution. Pain at its root is not a human experience. It is a living thing's experience. The hardware is different. The software is older than you can imagine. And the next time you walk past a tree that's been half uprooted in a storm, bent and torn and leaking sap, it is not silent. You step on a nail and you scream with electricity. The tree screams with chemistry. The forest listens. You just forgot how.